You're listening to The Practice of a Hoodoo Baptist, my personal journey of root work, faith, and ancestral wisdom. This is where I honor the ones that came before me and share what was passed down and walk you through my experiences of being unapologetically aligned. Covered by spirit, guided by blood. This episode is titled Black Girls and the Bible Belt. My oh my, have I been waiting to do this episode. It's been really exciting. Growing up Black, Southern, and Baptist as a girl, it's both a blessing and oppression. I was raised to be obedient, soft-spoken, and saved. I was taught to keep my legs closed, my prayers loud, and sometimes even my feelings quiet. And somewhere in the mix, my spirit almost got buried under shame and silenced. But buried doesn't necessarily mean gone. It means waiting. So today I want to talk about what it means to grow up as a Black girl in the Bible Belt and find your way back to yourself. For me, church wasn't always about building first of all, the Bible Belt shaped me. Let me get into it. So church wasn't just about community and discipline and survival, but it was also surveillance. Yeah, like I dressed a certain way. I had to speak a certain way. I had to respect my elders. I was expected to follow rules, even if I didn't fully understand those rules. I had to stay on the straight and narrow. I had to do what I was told. And low key that meant to sometimes to not be myself. Like I wasn't always encouraged to be myself. Yeah, and there were these like unspoken codes, right? Like don't question, don't feel too much, don't stand out. It's low key a little draining just talking about this shit. Yeah, it just kind of going in my memory bank. Yeah, I just remember. First of all, I went to a very Black church. I went to a very Black, Black centered church, Baptist church, and in Alabama. And my church that I grew up in, it was, very much given like Holy Ghost, ring shout. Yeah, like everybody, is coming up down to the altar and ushers wearing white fits, white gloves, white stockings, white shoes. Church ladies got their hats on. Yeah, and Yeah, and I remember like even like the way I had to dress. Like I was dressed very, very girly girl, like very much like like a little baby doll. And yeah, it seemed like anything outside the church was considered worldly or wrong or even witchcraft. And I really do mean it when I say that like the codes were low key, and maybe not low key for some people, but for me, like there were like unspoken codes, like and the codes were like, again, don't question the Bible, don't question what the pastor say, don't question your elders, don't question your parents, like don't question. But it was weird and confusing for me because I remember like being at home and my mother teaching me like to question everything, especially when it came down to me get ready to go to school. I was just taught at home like, yeah, like question your teachers. If you don't know something, you better ask permission for something before you just grab it, take it, or do something. If something feels weird or you don't understand, you ask questions. But in church, hell no. Couldn't say nothing in church. For real, it was don't question, don't feel too much, don't stand out. Because if you stand out, that's bad. Oof. So yeah, it was just this interesting dynamic. Like, you know, I was low key like in the church, within the church, like taught, and I think other black girls are taught this as well. Like you're taught uh, to fear your own intuition, low key, and to not tap into your intuition, to your gut feeling. Like you're not really, it's not something that you're encouraged to tap in with. Yeah, and thinking more about it, like even when it comes to our bodies, like the church really, we're talking about like the Bible Belt, like we were taught to even fear our menstrual cycles, like just, and it's interesting, like having having I had a safe space at home to talk about my period, to ask questions, and I got my period when I was 10. So it was okay, it was cool at home, but at church, like, yeah, it was, you could not really talk about your body or anything underneath your clothes, as my grandma would say. So yeah, when it comes to our periods, it's interesting. Like the only talk or some type of discussion or conversation I heard about periods or menstrual cycles in the church was about the verses in the Bible that talk about a woman being unclean and dirty when she's menstruating. While she's menstruating, like her body, her being dirty and unclean, and that was all that was talked about. And that connection between like women having periods and Eve, and and her sins. It was like, almost like it was encouraged and pushed for us to feel bad about having a period because of our connection as women, and the connection to Eve and her sin. So it was like, this is why y'all have periods. So therefore, that's nothing to be proud of. There's nothing to talk about. Shame it, silence it, or talk about it in this space. Really, really, really weird, and I think that is dangerous because it feeds into the stigma. It definitely has impact on, someone's self-esteem and self-efficacy, especially black girls. Like because I think off the bat we're taught that our bodies are not our own, and and that our bodies, are a result of the sin of another person, and it's a historical figure and reason why we have periods, and we should be punished for that, and the menstrual cycle is our ultimate punishment. Like, and that's, yeah, it's super dangerous to continue that narrative and to believe it, and it sucks because I believe a lot of Black girls, we internalize that, and moving forward, growing up, moving on, we become adults, and it makes it easy, to be gaslit by doctors or society, and to be told that period pain is normal, to be told that you're supposed to be in pain on your period. It's your period. Like, yeah, it brings you pain. Like, suck it, suck it up. You're a woman. None of that is positive. None of that does anything for your self-esteem, and none of that helps you with treatment, healing, nothing. Seriously, nothing. And yeah, and I think that also, from even bigger standpoint, has a huge impact on our bodies as a whole. How we feel about our bodies, how we look at ourselves, how we view ourselves, how we feel about our pleasure, how we view our pleasure, how we, we're not taught about pleasure. We're taught to run away from pleasure. And, it's, yeah, it's sad. Let me tell y'all something. I'm low key using this podcast episode as a therapy session, just to talk these things out. I've had mad conversations with other women, other Black women about this, and yeah, it's it's therapeutic for sure. Yeah, because now I'm just thinking about, like, yeah, like how I said, like from this experience and what we're taught and how we're treated and managed in church, and how that shapes how we view our bodies, how we view pleasure, and ultimately, like, it shapes our relationship with boundaries. And I think a lot of times we grow up having to figure out what the fuck boundaries are and what are our boundaries. And, because it seemed like the church didn't care about our boundaries when we were kids, just little Black girls. Like, we didn't necessarily pick our sex. We didn't choose to be born, as female humans and to menstruate and have, to just be kind of like thrown out there, as far as like, you're this gender, so here you go. Here's society giving you all the oppression, all the bullshit, and telling you what to do and how to feel about yourself and what to do with yourself and to be quiet, to be shamed. It's annoying. It's so annoying. I'm annoyed now. I'm annoyed. I'm going through all types of emotions with this episode, because it's like, damn, like, what would it be like if the church actually gave us support, when it comes to these types of conversations about, like, our bodies and, beyond just saying, oh, your body is a temple, take care of it. It's like, how am I supposed to take care of something you telling me to be shamed about and to, silence me for? And then you telling me to have this viewpoint about myself, and you not giving me a safe space to talk about this with you. So yeah, like, boundaries, ciao, bye. We also were taught to fear anything spiritual that wasn't passed through the pulpit. So I think ultimately we were taught to fear ourselves, especially as Black girls. We were never allowed to fully be human or holy. Just useful. I'm going to say that again. Especially as Black girls, we were never allowed to be fully human or holy. Just useful. Cause it seemed like it's almost like it's a double bind of faith and femininity. Let me explain. Purity culture. Purity culture shamed our natural bodies. Cause purity culture, they don't tell or teach you a goddamn thing about pleasure, but outside of pleasure is bad. You're a woman. You're not supposed to have pleasure. Like, excuse me, God bless me with an entire clitoris. This thing got more than 9,000 nerve endings. 10,000 nerve endings. 15. Somebody look it up. How many nerve endings is in the clitoris? I'm serious. I'm finna look it up right now because how dare you? That's crazy. I'm not going there. But no, I gotta go there because I do think, like certain things were just expected of us, like to be nice. That niceness was expected. But if I had boundaries, I was punished. Great example. I can't stand it when Black folks be forcing kids to hug people. Oh, I hated it. I was always considered low key a little stuck up kid, and I've been like that since I was a baby. Like certain people could not hold me when I was a baby. That's what I was told. And I was like, yep, I stand by that to this day. Even in my 30s, I do not hug everybody. I do not shake everybody's hand. I don't like everybody and everybody don't like me, and I dig it. Cause what? Boundaries. Okay. But yeah, it's like just like that enforcement to be nice, to smile. Ooh, bitch, heavy on the smile. But you know what? I think so many of us grew up thinking being good meant being quiet. So I think a lot of Black girls like just kind of tapped into, subconsciously just being quiet, having their head down, being respectful, having manners. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Or if you're from Alabama, no, sir. Like me. And just being, obedient and internalizing all this shit and just, being quiet about it. However, I think it only we can only do that for so long. It could only last for so long. Because the moment you start listening to your intuition, your ancestors, your body, you recall rebellious, you recall fast. Everybody say child if you was called fast. Child. It's like, what? I just went and got up to use the bathroom because I have to pee. I'm just wearing sandals. I just said hey to the boy. I'm just speaking. Y'all said be nice, speak to everybody. I can't speak to him. Why not? Just pressing so many things onto you. You were called fast, rebellious, or dangerous. or even demonic. Anybody out there was called demonic? Baby. Yeah, oof. Yeah, I'm just thinking about like all these different ways and how we just, I think collectively can just relate to a lot of these things, because I think in the black church collectively just had this common act of oppression and control towards black girls, whether you're Baptist, AME, yeah, like I don't think the denomination matters. I just think if you a black girl and you grew up in the black church or went to church, you was hit with it, you know. Hoodoo definitely helped me reconnect with spirit on my own terms. I think I think just from having my own relationship with God helped tremendously, tapping into my own intuition, really viewing my intuition and discernment, you know, as magic and power, my own personal power, was cool. And yeah, solitude like that. I remember that really helping me, because going from Alabama, moving to California, for me personally, it was just like, yo, I'm good riding solo, because yeah, it was just different experiences, tapping into different churches, going to different churches. I didn't necessarily, like, I always inquired in churches to become a member, but I never would become a member. Like after maybe my teenage years, becoming an adult, it was just like, no, I took that very seriously after, before like leaving the church, eventually. But yeah, I felt like, it was necessary to integrate my spiritual power with the love that I still have for the Baptist tradition, because the black church is hoodoo tradition. It's all in that. It's all warped and intertwined in that. It truly is. So even like when I went to other churches, especially in California, where certain traditions weren't present, it was a bit of a struggle for me to like find something about the church that I liked. But I did notice, like, even a church that I started going to when I was in high school, there were certain parts about it that reminded me. I needed something to remind me of the South, or of the Baptist hoodoo, tradition. I needed something to remind me of that for me to like continue to go to the church. It had to be something about it that, to keep me there, whether it was praise and worship, the pastor, the first lady, the congregation, it's something, the way they preach, or the programs that they have, how they talk about other people in other spaces, people of other, religions and practices. Like, it just had to be something there to help me tap in, because I was fine, with my own personal relationship with God. But I wanted community. I wouldn't say that the church hurt me. I definitely wouldn't say that. That's not my experience. I would more so say that the church lost me because yeah, like growing up and moving around a lot, and yeah, and it was just nothing never really like clicked again for me to want to like join a church. So I always like visited different churches. There was a church in high school that I went to for a very long time. Yeah, like from age 12, 13 to like age 16, maybe 17, I went to this church in Santa Clarita, California. They were, name of the church was Santa Clarita Christian Fellowship. And I want to say their head pastor was from the South, but him and his wife, and they had a daughter. Yeah, like I really enjoyed that church, but but even then, I was going to visiting other people's friends' churches, and you know, yeah, it just it was cool. Because they were kind and they were solid, and it was a great community for sure. But yeah, it was always something missing though, you know. Yeah, because my discernment definitely kept me from going back to some churches. It was just like, I won't be back. Okay, this is cute. No, thank you. But yeah, like so for me, like growing up, moving out of that space and realizing like, just kind of the ways and how the church low key oppressed me, or just didn't make me feel welcome, or was just kind of feeding into, sexism and xenophobia and homophobia and bigotry. Like, I didn't want no parts of that. So it was important for me to, find community. And also it was important for me to name my faith without giving up my freedom. Like to name my faith without the church. Because it was about my relationship with God, not my relationship with God through the church. Because, yeah, too many churches are just not, in my opinion, it's not godly practices that they are doing, especially when they're not being kind and don't, there's no compassion there. But anywho, so I mean, I say all that to say, like, to other black girls out there, you don't have to throw away the hymns to heal. You really don't. You also don't have to stay in a place that doesn't let your spirit speak. Okay? You don't. So if you're healing from Bible Belt wounds, sis, you are not alone. Also talking to, this message, this isn't just for black girls, because I know the church has hurt a lot of folks, the black church, Lord. So for my femmes, my gender expansive humans, my trans girlies, all of you out there, everybody listening to my podcast, if you're healing from Bible Belt wounds, you are not alone. Okay? If if you love and practice your African traditions and hoodoo traditions, indigenous traditions, any of that, you are not confused. You are whole. If you still love Jesus and still light your candles, your rich auntie candles, okay, you are not confused. You are not demonic. There is nothing wrong with you. You are whole. Like, no, we are not going to continue to carry on those negative labels and judgment that may have started for you in the church. Like, no. If you've ever been told you're not Christian enough or you're too spiritual, take a breath. Just take a breath. You're already enough. You're already divine. You're already free. And please don't forget, you're not alone, because there's a lot of harmful theologies still going on out there, still being preached, still being cast upon folks' minds. Harmful theology, I tell you, okay? Christian nationalist shit. White Christian nationalist shit. It's still going on out there. And I'm like, oof. Not gonna do it. If you ever been called a fast ass tail little girl, take a breath. You are not a bad person. You are not evil. You are not demonic. There is nothing wrong with you. You are already divine. You are already free. And you're already enough. I love you. And I know you love yourself. It is okay. And congratulations, you're already doing the work by deconstructing all that nonsense. You know, getting through all of that, like recharging, resetting your mind. You're doing the work. Like, I'm proud of you, because, baby, they tried to take us down. Control. Like, that's all it was about. In the end, it's like you realize, like, damn, it was just about control. And the crazy shit is, I think about all the time, the black woman is the backbone of the black church. If the black woman took all of her money out of the black church, done. Dunzo. And it's crazy because you see it, like, you know, from the first lady to the ushers, the usher board, the congregation, black women, mothers, grandmothers, great grandmothers, aunties, daughters, sisters, running it, keeping it alive, okay, to the fullest. So it's like, damn, that Bible Belt shit, it works. It be working. Because not everybody makes it out of it. Some just like get pushed into that cycle, and like it's a badass dream, and they don't wake up. But you did. So you good. All we can do is create safe spaces for each other and ourselves, and do the work, heal ourselves, look within, break intergenerational curses, grow and keep growing. You ain't grown. You're still growing. But you free though. You made it out. Thanks for listening. Thank you. You've been listening to The Practice of a Hoodoo Baptist. This is my altar, my process, my truth, where I honor those who came before me and speak what was once kept in silence, covered by spirit, guided by blood. Thank you again. Until next time.